All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Good evening. We are super excited. We're superly excited tonight. We're grateful to God for the wonderful things that He's doing in this season of our lives, and He is doing some amazing things. Let me just say that at the onset of this conversation tonight. God is doing some amazing things in this season of our lives. And the only season that we have is the one that we're in. So I'm speaking to the one that we're in, that God is doing some amazing things. This is 2020. This is a new decade, and this is a new year. Well, we're not new now because we're already in September. So we're getting ready to fall on over into next year. But this year has been very interesting and amazing at the same time. None of us imagined or thought or could have even put on our radar that we would be in the midst of what we're in now. But in the midst of all of this, we still serve a God. Here it is that the Bible said He's able to do exceeding abundantly. And so we thank Him tonight. Listen, and we have my wife and I, Lady Brenda, is on with me tonight, and I'm super excited because she's with me tonight. But we have, listen to this, y'all, both of our doctors who are keeping us together. As a matter of fact, I just saw mine on Monday, and you know, when you get some of you know, and some of you may not know, but when you get into the 50s club, you have to make sure that you're watching out and you're taking some good care, and stuff just happens. But I'm grateful to God tonight to have my doctor. His name is Dr. Laurie Robinson. He is an internal medicine specialist on the line with me tonight. He'll say anything he wants to say about himself when he speaks tonight. And as a matter of fact, he took care of my dad. He's taking care of my mom. He's taking care of my sisters. He's taking care of me. So and he's taking care of my wife, and with Dr. Laurie taking care of her and my girls. And so we're grateful. And then we have Dr. Laurie Johnson, who is an OBGYN. And I am so elated because I remember when she came to our area, and to see how God Himself has done a wonderful work in and through her life and through her practice. And so tonight, what we're going to do, and those of you, I did mention my wife, but that's my wife, Lady Brenda. She is an awesome, powerful, anointed woman of God that I'm so grateful to have favor released on my life when I found her. Y'all will catch that in a little bit, but I'm grateful to God tonight that she's on the line with me. And so we're going to have a conversation tonight. And I will say this, that once the information was put out in reference to our conversation tonight, we were flooded with questions. And what I want to do tonight is, as many as we can, we're going to talk through them, but I'm going to give the doctors an opportunity to share and talk a lot tonight. We are live, and there is someone who's monitoring our feed tonight. And so if there is a question that you have tonight, you can send it in, and we're going to answer those, and we're going to give you what God gives us, and we're going to give you what, from the medical perspective, what's taking place, and then we're going to all be encouraged and empowered together. So docs, if either one of you want to share something about yourselves, you can do that now, and then I'll ask the first question.
Please, Dr. Laurie, after you.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. Bishop Strickland, it's such a pleasure to be here with you on this evening, and your lovely wife, and Dr. Robinson, of course, as you wonderfully introduced me. Yes, you guys were, your wife was actually one of my first patients, probably like 10, 11 years ago when I came to Georgia. I had been practicing in Pennsylvania for a few years, and I relocated here in 2009. And that's how long I've known you guys and your family, and I've watched your girls grow up, and I've seen them grow into some beautiful young ladies. But as Bishop said, I am an OBGYN. My office is in Locust Grove, Georgia, Just for You Women's Healthcare. And I've been there for almost for about 11 years now, practicing in the Henry County area and serving the women there. And it is just a pleasure to be here tonight.
Amen. Tell them the name of your practice again, Just For You.
For you, Just For You, Women's Healthcare.
Just For You, Women's Healthcare. Amen. So women, y'all go ahead and look that up. All right, Dr. Robinson, if you will.
Amen. Thank you, Bishop. Again, Dr. Ira Robinson. I've been in the Stockbridge area for now, I want to say since 2001. Yeah, since 2001. Wow. And it's just been a pleasure. It's been an honor. I've always seen myself as a servant of God's people, number one, and a servant of the masses, number two. And that's what the Lord has blessed me to do in the Henry County Stockbridge area. I remember Pastor Hopi Strickland. I remember that kind, gentle soul, and fell in love with him. And one day his son came in, and one day his daughter-in-law came in, his wife came in, and I got to fall in love with all of them. And it's just been a blessing to serve just everyone in this family. And I can tell you that if you're under Bishop's tutelage, you're getting the true word of God from someone who loves the Lord, number one, but loves people, number two. So I am at Med-South Primary Care. I serve with a PA, Jessica Wasson, and a nurse practitioner, Fabiola Siepel, Med-South Primary Care right at the Henry County campus in Stockbridge, Georgia, right off of Eagles Landing Parkway. And we're just excited to be here and just be able to answer whatever questions we can. It's a very interesting time, and it's good to have someone who can really just give you information, right at your level. Try not to talk over you, try not to talk under you as well. And that's why I'm here to serve.
Amen. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Honey, you want to say anything before we dive into this?
I'm excited. And Dr. Laurie, you're right. I came to you in 2009 when you were on 155, and you
Right.
are established the best OBGYN I know in the state of Georgia.
Amen.
And Dr. Robinson, I've been going, I don't know, it's been a long time. Family, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so let's just dive into the conversation tonight. In your opinion, docs, where are we with this virus right now? In your opinion, where are we?
I'll let Dr. Robinson go first on that one.
All right. Well, first I'll say that, I'm not a CNN correspondent or a virologist or epidemiologist by no means, but I've been through a few epidemics and a couple pandemics and seen a whole lot. And with my experience and what I've seen, I can just say that right now, as you know, the middle of March, CDC and the FDA declared a pandemic here in the United States and across the world. And it's for what we call the SARS-CoV-2 virus. And this is a virus that causes a disease called COVID-19. Just like HIV is the virus, the disease that HIV causes is AIDS. And you have a lot of people who test positive for the virus. In terms of what we know now, upwards of 80+% of the people who actually encounter this virus will have no symptoms. Maybe another 15% will have very mild symptoms, meaning up to 95% of people who encounter this virus may not know it, because either they'll have nothing that will tip them off, or they'll be very mild at best. You'll have another 4.5% that seems to have moderate to severe symptoms, but still recover. And there seems to be a fatality rate of somewhere around 0.5%, which is kind of on par with influenza and some of the other cold viruses that are out there, which is certainly much lower than what was initially projected when everything kicked off earlier this year. In terms of where we are now, we're seeing a marked spike in cases. Right, several million. We were up to nearly 6 million cases, 5.5 million, 5.6 million cases now. But the death rates are going down, and that's tremendous. And that's a real important point. And I'm thinking about 1 Timothy 2 and 7, I believe it is, or 7 and 1, I think it is, that says we have a spirit of fear, not a spirit of fear, but one of power and of love and of sound mind. And I just want to encourage people, just like I do my patients, that we don't want to be fearful of this virus. Yes, it does take lives, and it's taken a lot of lives. But also we've learned a lot as a result. And what we've learned, and this is really important, is that a large proportion of the deaths that we saw early on were not so much because of the virus as much as it was because of our treatments or the lack of understanding on how to properly treat it. And that's one of the main reasons you're seeing a big decrease in death rates right now. We're changing the way we put people on ventilators, the settings, some of the other treatments that we use, and people are surviving now. And so in a general sense, that's kind of where we are. And I know on the one hand, it seems that there is an overwhelming sense of fear, and particularly when we talk about new cases and all the media hype about new cases and spikes with school openings and what have you. But in general, we're actually seeing a decrease in deaths, and that's really important to note.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I'll say I would agree with that. I think, as Dr. Robinson said, because it wasn't, they called the novel virus, which means it was new and we didn't know what to do with it. So they were treating the symptoms and things as the best way we could, what we thought we knew to do, but that wasn't, in retrospect, the best form of treatment. I think the fearful part of it is that, as Dr. Robinson said, there are so many people who don't have any symptoms at all, but you never can tell who's going to get what and who's going to end up where when you encounter the virus. And I think that's what has people very fearful, is that you don't know if you're just going to have a head cold, or you're going to have a little nausea, or you're going to end up in ICU. So it's such a wide range of wide spectrum of symptoms and symptomatology that this virus has shown us. And I think that the fear-ish part is not really knowing how you're going to get it, like what's really going to happen. And so we had been a little bit better earlier on, and then kind of like once school got out and summer hit, we really kind of went way up. And now it's not as bad as it was in mid-July. Hopefully we can continue to trend down now that school's back in. We're still not near 0 cases or less than 3-digit cases per day, but hopefully we can continue to trend back down. And as more and more people become infected with it, after a while, there's very little people left to infect, unfortunately, because everyone has encountered it at some point. But we still, as cautious as we can be, again, just not knowing who's going to get what when they encounter the virus.
Yeah, fear is one of those things that will grip you, because we were living in the unknown, and nobody really knew. It's the I haven't seen this before. It's the I haven't experienced it like this before. It's the I don't know where it came from. I don't know how long it's going to be here. I don't know how long I don't know when it's going to leave. So that fear piece is very interesting. And when you talk about schools and teachers, one of the questions came in today: what precautions should teachers take once schools are reopening? We just got, so the district I'm in, we're virtual, but we just got word that a district that's closer to us is getting ready to start back having students come in at different phases. So Henry County is that system where they're going to be coming in Monday, Tuesday, and then Thursday, Friday, and then they do virtual on Wednesday. So what precautions should teachers take? And I'll share this: when school first, when we were getting ready to go back, I did have to have a meeting where I had to go in for open house. And I'll be very transparent here. When I got there, of course I was masked, but when I got there, and they called everyone together before we had our last call before we were dispersed, there were maybe 50 plus people in the building. And at that moment, I had to say to myself, hey, get it together, because I had not been around that number of people in such a long time, not knowing. So I had to say to myself, hey, so that sense of fear or the unknown can grip you. And so now that they're talking about, us reopening schools and sending kids back, we also had that incident in Gwinnett County. So what precautions should teachers take once schools are reopened?
It's a great question. Dr. Laurie, you want to start?
I can. I think, some of the things that they've been telling us to do we should know already. For instance, washing your hands, not touching your face, obviously not sneezing on people and coughing on people, things that are kind of like basic manners and should be basic hygiene. To continue to do those things. I think with older kids, it won't be as complicated. For younger kids, they want to touch, they want to hug. So it probably will be a little more difficult. But, hand sanitizers and kind of constant things like that. Have to be careful with up close hugs. They're gonna have to be more mindful, not fearful, but mindful, I would say, as to what they're doing, and maybe not do maybe think for a minute before they go hug a kid or something like that. So just kind of the basic things, make sure the desks are being wiped down, etc. And one thing that the parents have to do for the teachers is when the child doesn't feel good, when the child is sick, don't send them to school. Like, keep them home. Like that, it seems that should be simple, but people were doing it before COVID. They send a child with a fever, give them some Tylenol, send them to school anyway. Then the kid in midday is sick. If your child has a fever, keep them home. Don't send them to school. Don't infect the whole class. Keep them back. So I think that's one thing teachers got to impress upon the parents to help them with, and teachers do with the basics they've been doing as far as maintaining distance and keeping everything clean.
Okay. As a teacher who encounters elementary kids and who has been encountering them for 26 years, it is a total mindful mind shift. Mm-hmm. Because children they just run up, hey, Mr. Strickland. And before you know it, we're touching. Mm-hmm. Or, good morning, how are you? Good to see you. And we're touching each other. And so that's a complete, because children they're not thinking about mask and virus, all those kinds of things. And so one of the things I will say to that as an educator is that it's going to be, we have to be mindful that we don't exude this sense of not wanting to be touched. Just be careful in what we're doing and interacting, which leads me to this next one. So what is known now about the reinfection rate? Do we have any information on this thing coming back again? And the reinfection. So if I've been infected once, can I get it again? And then the second part is because we've been hearing talking, there's another wave coming. Right. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, great questions. In terms of reinfection, to be honest, there have been 3 cases, quote unquote, of reinfection right now. People who've been documented to have had COVID-19 originally. And they were mild cases. And then a few months later to have tested positive for a second outbreak or a second set of symptoms called a syndrome, the COVID-19 disease caused by that virus. And what was actually found is that it's not the same virus, that it's a mutation. So we're now looking at a mutation, and this mutation is a little less virulent and a little less dangerous, but nonetheless can still cause disease. To what extent, we're not sure. But these are things that we have expected with any viral outbreak. Several other coronaviruses that roam the earth during the cold season, adenovirus, rhinovirus, influenza. So we know that these viruses mutate throughout the year, some at a higher rate than others. So this is no surprise, which means therefore that if you did in fact encounter the original SARS-CoV-2 virus that yes, theoretically, if you encounter that second virus, you could be infected once again. Does, again, I must stress this again, it does appear to be a much milder syndrome than the first, than COVID-19 with SARS-CoV-2. I will also say, in response to what should people be doing, I know one thing that we're doing at our office is that we're making sure that, hey, if you've got risk factors, major risk factors, we're telling folks, you know what, I'll write you a letter, and we will make sure that you stay out because you have risk factors. You're on drugs that weaken your immune system. You've got, diabetes that may be controlled or uncontrolled, hypertension, heart disease, all these other things that put you at risk. And so ask your doctor, if you're an administrator or teacher and you're getting ready to go back in on the front lines and you're concerned, reach out to your physician. This won't be foreign to them. The second thing is, in addition to all the common sense things that Dr. Johnson was just mentioning, is one thing that we've known for decades is the benefit of vitamin D, helping to protect you against viral infections. Not only that, but protecting you against the severity of infection. And in particular, COVID-19, we've got new studies that show that. So it's an independent risk factor to have low vitamin D levels for this virus and others. So the other thing you can do is make sure your vitamin D levels are up. And what that dose might be for you, most of us think between 2,000 and 4,000 IUs daily. And if you go in and get your levels checked and we think it's too low, we want to get it up quicker, we actually give you a prescription to drive it up quicker.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So another question that came in is it possible that the COVID has been in the States sooner than February?
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's the short answer.
Right. So I remember back September, October, when school almost first began last year, that there were a couple of coworkers of mine who would come in, and all of a sudden, they were having troubles breathing, and then when they would return, they would say, you know what, they were calling this a strand of the flu, but they don't know what it was. I have never experienced anything like this before.
Correct.
So we're hearing a lot of conversations that it was here before we were all informed.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with that. Yeah, I would agree with that. I know some people who said they were sicker than they've ever been back in like October, November through December, here and there. But, they negative tested for the flu. They didn't test positive for strep. And they said, oh, it's a virus, but no one really knew what it was. We didn't know what to look for or what to call it. So I'm pretty certain that it's been here before we knew really what it was and what to actually start to look for.
Okay.
Absolutely. We had several cases in our practice where we swore it was influenza, but they tested repeatedly negative. And we know at that time, there was no way to test for this virus. We still treated them like it was influenza because of that. And so we're certain, and even in retrospect with other studies, it looks like there were cases documented to be not only here, but other places in the world well before January.
Wow.
Yeah, very interesting.
Okay. I won't get off into the what I was thinking about in terms of when we heard it and how people are saying no, it wasn't here. So let me just kind of let me gear it, stay here. Question from a senior, I'm assuming. How best can a senior who's basically been sheltered during the pandemic best reunite or spend time with their children or other relatives living outside the senior's home? The holidays are coming. How should they handle the holidays? How should they get reacquainted with their children?
Dr. Laurie?
Well, I think that if, now we're to the point where they have rapid tests. You can get a test back in a few hours. You may have to pay for it, but, worst come to worst, you just get a test today and go see mama tomorrow. or go see mom the day after tomorrow. Make sure your test is negative. And then also making sure that your circle, whoever is coming, hasn't been all over the place. That's a major factor. Like if that grandchild just outside all the time, then he can't come, or he can get a rapid test and come. But it's about whoever is coming to the house has been around in that time frame. So I think now that we can do the rapid test, if they want to have family gather, just kind of bring your paper to the door when you get there for Thanksgiving dinner. Are you negative? You can come on in. If not, stay out. And then I just saw something recently where they were promoting even wearing masks and around family members who you haven't seen for a while, just wearing a mask indoors. So I think there are ways around it. I mean, obviously, the holidays are coming, people want to be together, but there's definitely ways to go around that.
I want to talk about this test because I mentioned last week with a group of nurses how all of us, so my wife had gotten hers, and then the rest of us she scheduled the rest of us to go on the same day and time. And I shared last week how the testing was going, and then we had 4 testers at the car. So we were all being tested simultaneously. And I don't know if I heard them say I'm getting ready to go, but all I know is that my tester said I'm ready to go in. And almost simultaneously, the entire car broke out in this huge cough because of the swab going in the back, and they start twisting and carrying. Are y'all gonna come up with a better way to do that? Because if I got to get tested like over and over, I'm not quite sure. Is there word? Is there conversation? Is there? I can't say a better way. Are we looking at another way? Because let's just say I do get around my mom, and she has to be tested various times. That right there, and it got right to that point where it was almost like, get this out of my nose, and tears just started coming down. Now, I'm the daddy. I can't be sitting up here crying in the test, but all of us simultaneously at the same time. I guess they hit that spot, and it was over. And of course, my wife had already taken hers, and we thought she was coming for more support, but she came to video everybody's response. So are we coming up with another way of testing? Have you guys heard about a way of testing that's going to be different? Or because that rapid test, I understand they go further back. Yeah, if they go into further back than they did that day when I went on I'm just going to let that test be it and quarantine and all that. So are we talking about another? Can you just take my blood? I mean, I don't know. Is there talk about another way to do this test?
There is. I've heard a little bit of talk about a fingerstick test, but from what I know, it's not widespread just yet. Dr. Robinson, you could probably add more to that.
And other types of salivary testing and what have you. But you have to understand that just the way the test, what they're looking for it depends on higher levels of virus, because we're not looking for antibodies, right? We're looking for the actual virus itself. And that's going to take time. And even recently, I think the CDC just released something the other day that said that ideal time is now between 5 and 6 days. So that you can get appropriate viral levels so that you can get that RNA which is part of the genetic code when you put that test in the nose or in the throat. So even if it's too early, an oral swab won't get it. Maybe even if it's later than that, just an oral swab won't get it. I'm not seeing, it doesn't look like there's anything hopeful yet for something that's going to be more comfortable than the painful experience that my brother just went through.
I just cannot say I can do this thing, because I think I heard the athletes are being tested often.
Right.
And I'm an athlete.
Right.
And so I'm just not sure if, daily, I'm going to be willingly to say, hey, test me. Nah, I'm not.
But I
came in, if a person is asymptomatic, does that that they have possibly had a previous strand of the virus?
If they're asymptomatic, they could have the current virus.
Mhm.
You just don't know. But that's the point, that this virus, so once you encounter it, you typically develop antibodies with a normal immune system about 2 weeks later. And some people won't develop antibodies because another arm of the immune system will take over. And what we're looking for in terms of antibodies might not show up, but they're still immune. And then you have those that, because of their blood type, type O blood makes a lot, it seems like the majority of people who are type O are going to be immune to this. And type A seems to be far more susceptible, for example. So it just depends on where you are. It depends on other risk factors, vitamin D levels, for example, blood sugar levels, other comorbidities. So it's multifactorial. But when we say asymptomatic, that means that you've encountered this virus, whether we can identify it or not. And it's gone through your immune system. Your immune system's handled it, done what it needs to do, and you had no symptoms. And that's what about 80% of the people who encounter this virus will do.
Okay. I want to ask this for churches, because I've had conversations with other pastors and other bishops and leaders. And some of us, so what we're doing is we are allowing people to come. Our churches our chairs are spread out. We have persons who may come into the parking lot for worship. Then we have those who are coming online, share with us in worship. And I've always said to our people, if you know that you're not feeling well, then just hear me say, stay at home. It's okay. It's okay. But in conversations, I'm hearing that pastors and leaders are making preparations for the fall, for those who are open, to go back to the virtual, because it's been said that there's another wave that's coming. And you could have spoken to this a moment ago, and if I missed it, just say it again. But are you all hearing that there's another wave that's coming? And if it is, what have you heard about it?
Dr. Laurie, go ahead.
There's mixed things coming about the second wave. Part of it is that we're entering into the typical flu season. So October typically starts flu season anyway. So you already have people having flus, and that wave, if you will, comes through. And then there may or may not be a second COVID wave coming through. They can't predict it 100% whether or not it's going to pop through or not. I think that what we've just kind of anecdotally seen is that when we had stayed more apart, it was better. When we started to come back together in large numbers and go to beaches and travel and go here and go there, the numbers spike up. So if there's a second wave, we haven't necessarily got rid of the first wave for the second wave to even come through. And depending on what state you live in, they're in the peak of their wave, whereas other states are on the downslope. So we may see a spike in cases with this next set, but it still kind of remains to be seen.
Okay. Yeah, and to Dr. Laurie's point, I mean, she's right. She's absolutely right. There's just no way to predict. And that's what these are, predictions, right? No one can say, no one has a crystal ball. We make estimations, and earlier in the year, because of the spike in initial death rates and new cases, of course, everyone was speculating that, oh my goodness. So with the fall and the cold season and influenza, when they converge, that's going to be crazy. When in fact, now if you really think about it, this is the first time we've entered cold season, first time we've entered flu season, socially distanced and with masks. So if you really think about it from that standpoint, it's more probable that it will be a more muted cold season than ever. That doesn't mean we go out and have parties in the streets and throw our masks, to the wind, but many of us are predicting that it won't be as bad as we initially thought.
Okay, and when you mention it, my trainer talks to me about his daughter just getting ready, going back to college, and how they were there for 1 week, and they got an email from the president saying if these kids keep doing what they're doing, they're going to have to shut it down because they had 500 cases to be reported in one day. in one day. Got some, these questions are still coming in, so I'm going to give them to you as they're coming. How do the deaths from COVID-19 compare to the deaths from the flu? And are the flu deaths reported the same way?
That's a great question. Dr. Laurie, you had?
Well, the flu deaths are reported annually based on the flu. I think the major, when people say, oh, well, people die every year from the flu, typically the flu death rate is somewhere around 60 to 80,000, I want to say, over like a 6-month period. We're close to 180,000 deaths that we know of from COVID-19. So it's been more virulent as far as people dying. And then another thing is, sometimes we focus on the death rates only, but with this COVID, there are a lot of people who are surviving, but who will have long-term, if not lifetime issues because of the damage that COVID has done. So you're alive, but you're on dialysis. You're alive, but you require oxygen. You're alive, but you have blood clots. You're alive, but you have all these other things that the COVID has done, where we don't typically see that with the flu at all. Typically, you have the flu, you make it, you survive, or you don't, and you kind of just keep on going. This virus does so many more things. So, and that's some of the things that aren't necessarily being reported. We're kind of just hearing cases and deaths. And so we can look at those two separate numbers. But I have a personal friend actually who contracted COVID in the end of March of this year and was in a coma for 80 days. Made it out, but he's still in rehab, trying to relearn how to walk, relearn how to function, has not left the hospital since the end of March. And here we are in September. So, and this was a healthy man who had a vibrant life, traveled, did everything, and caught COVID. So, no, he's alive, but his life will likely never go back to what it once was.
It's a great point. Great point. Yeah, in terms of deaths from influenza, to Dr. Laurie's point, I mean, yeah, in the United States, it's like 60,000 that you see, 60 to 80,000, maybe annually. The world over, you might see maybe 500,000-600,000 deaths with influenza. But the point is that we've got a novel virus that is causing all kinds of strange syndromes and symptoms in a lot of people that are different. And again, there's several other coronaviruses and other adenoviruses, other cold viruses that in some people will cause similar symptoms. In internal medicine, we encounter people who have what we call fibromyalgia and other diseases that we can't ascribe to anything else. And when you look at them, you really start seeing that these are post-viral syndromes from other viruses. And that's kind of what we're seeing even with this one, that some people will have muscle aches, will have joint aches, will have, organ failure, like Dr. Johnson referred to, will have to relearn to walk, all of those kinds of things, neuromuscular disorders. It's not the masses, but it's nonetheless a real issue that people will encounter with this virus and others for that matter.
So we're saying the after effects of this one is a lot different than just the common cold or the flu or those kinds of things.
Right.
That's correct.
Are doctors' offices and hospitals ready for the influx of patients who will present themselves with flu and COVID? And how will you identify and separate them? So are hospitals and your offices ready for this? I do know when I visited my doctor's office this week, and even when I went to give blood prior to, we're outside, our temperatures are checked. And when I got into the doctor's office the other day, I said, oh, I can tell this has changed because chairs were turned. You got to sit over here. And let me just pause and say this. I went through a phase where all of this being separate from people affected me greatly, because I am a fellowshipping people person. I love being around people. But the moment we couldn't, I was like, okay, yeah, this is going to be good. But after we had to roll with this thing past a week or so, I was like, I don't know how good it's going to be, not for them, but for me.
Right.
So to have to walk around and see, and my family members would tell you, hey guys, it's time for us to get together. Hey, I miss seeing you guys. What are we doing? So this whole idea of being separate was major for me. And so when I walked into my doctor's office the other day, and my doctor's office is taking, we took temperatures, and I had to celebrate one of the nurses in the doctor's office before I left on Monday, because when I did give blood, she was answering the door, the phone, she was taking temperatures, she was holding the fort down, like single-handedly. So I've got to make sure I send her at least a Dairy Queen coupon so she can get her some business. So let me get back to my questions. Are the offices and hospitals ready for the influx of patients who will present themselves with flu and COVID, and how would they identify and separate them?
Dr. Jones?
Well, we've had the influx.
Right. Not new.
We've been living the influx, okay? One of the crazy things with this virus is, we shut the hospital doors. And
Right.
So don't think we wasn't working inside. It's been crazy. It got a little quieter and it was crazy again. But most hospitals are doing what they call, if you come in with a symptom-esque situations, they call you a PUI, or a patient under investigation. And then there's a PUI area, which is probably not far from the COVID area. And then once your test results, either you're in or you're out. You either go to the COVID floor or you don't. So that's kind of how we've been managing all these months, checking at the door. You got a fever, you can't come in, you got to go here, you got to go there, keeping additional people out of the office. Like we've gotten, barrages of phone calls, because, I do OB, I still do deliveries. So it's, usually the partner or the mom is coming with the pregnant girl, and they're, all excited about the baby. And we're like, nope, can't come in. And then, I can't get, nope, can't come in. No, sorry. Put them on FaceTime, talk to them on FaceTime, you can't come in. So we've been doing that for some months, and we don't see any change coming anytime soon.
So even with the babies and the delivery, that was one of the things, that was my question right now. Mm-hmm. Have you encountered a pregnant mom now who has been affected by the virus? Have you, and how is that process, as much as you can share with us about that?
Terrible. It's awful. Like, I've been really talking to my pregnant patients, because pregnancy is the state of relative immune deficiency. So the immune system in a pregnant woman is just subliminally kind of suppressed, because if you think about it, she's carrying a foreign body, a foreign object inside of her body. So in order for her body not to attack this foreign object, the immune system has to kind of go into a low. So the pregnant women who've been affected with COVID, it's many were asymptomatic, but it seems like what we've seen is, once the baby has been delivered, like it hits her like pow, like a ton of bricks, and she gets very, very sick. We have seen people who were very sick in the process of being pregnant. Those patients tend to get very ill very, very fast, and it ends up being a lot of a serious situation. Another thing that my community has seen, just across the country in different chat groups and stuff, is we've seen a high incidence of fetal demises, like stillbirths, since this COVID pandemic has popped up. We're seeing so many babies come in and there's no heartbeat. So there's a lot of things happening with pregnancy and COVID that we're really just hoping our moms stay safe, trying to really get them to stay safe, because it's not a pleasant situation.
And also, Bishop, to your point, one of the other more insidious long-term effects that we're seeing, and that we're not really talking enough about, is depression. So because we need each other, we need that connectivity. A lot of people are dealing with despair, depression, I mean, I've got patients whose spouses died during this time. They couldn't bury them, whether it's COVID or not, or other family members, church members that they couldn't bury. My mom, she's in a nursing home. We haven't been able to see her. My dad was shut off from her as he was caring for her. And so you have all of that to deal with. And then you're moving into the fall, which we call the sad season. Shorter days, longer nights, a lot of tearful moods. So just want to keep people aware of that as well. That's a major issue that people tend to overlook, particularly in the church, where you think, yeah, I feel down and blue, but I'm so blessed and the Lord's given me this and it's given me that, and I shouldn't be tearful. I shouldn't feel this way, but you are. That's the reality. That's where you are. And that's why the Lord has put us, me and Dr. Laurie, in this place to be able to help you. Because depression in this time, we're seeing a marked increase in suicides. And this fall will be no different. So it's just a warning for people who are feeling that way. Do not take that lightly. Just, swallow your pride and knock on the door, pick up the phone, talk to somebody.
I want to speak to that. Thank you for taking me to this place. And I guess when I was sharing my personal, it was good for us. I want to say to everyone who's watching us, because culturally, we have grown thinking that if we need psychological assistance, that's like demonic to ask for. But we deal with this depression stuff a whole lot, and we don't reach out because, hey, you're going to make it through. I want to say to everyone who's watching in this season, if you have experienced anything of the kind, the depression, those sad feelings, and we're coming up on the fall, I want you to take, here it is, the wisdom, use your faith, and go and see somebody.
Amen.
Get yourself together and go find you someone that you can talk with through this process. We were on a call with the apostle just yesterday, and he encouraged us a whole lot to make sure that we stay in a place of knowing that everybody's not on the ha end. Some people are going through some tough stuff. It's the reality of things for people. And so I want you all to hear me say clearly, and I'm so grateful to God, listen, y'all, to have a saved doctor, to be connected to saved doctors. And they pray, they fast, they do all those kinds of things, but they also know that you need some help in some areas. That's why the Lord has graced them as vessels in the earth, that we might go to them and seek the counsel. So for anyone who's going through that, don't take it lightly, or I'll just come out of this and, no. Don't take it like, go and sit down and talk to someone. Please talk to someone. My wife's gonna chime in just a moment, but I want to ask this question, a couple more questions. I've seen several kinds of masks. I've seen various types of masks. And the question I want to ask is, are these masks really useful in preventing the spread?
Great question. Dr. Laurie?
I'll let you go, Dr. Robinson.
I'll just say, so when you consider masks, you have to look at the situation, right? So as a healthcare provider, if I'm sitting addressing someone who's a patient under suspicion, or someone who's documented COVID and I'm dealing with them, then I have to protect myself in a different way, which means I've got to have a mask with a special seal here. I've got to have a visor, got to have what we call personal protection equipment, and that's got to be changed with each encounter. For the masses, and that's again to protect me from getting it, and of course it's going to help me from transmitting something for sure, but in that case, that's protecting me from getting it. The majority of people are going to be more concerned with what the purpose of masks are otherwise, and that is to keep me from being a potential asymptomatic carrier from spreading it to you, my brother, my mother, my daughter, my friend, my teacher, That's the purpose of the masks. And generally, the CDC has made a recommendation that a barrier such as it could be a scarf, something that's going to limit the forward spread of this mist that comes from us when we breathe, or when we talk, or when we laugh, or when we cough. It's going to limit the spread of the virus. And so that's what the masks are for. They're not to protect us from getting it. There is some degree of protection, but to be honest, if there's enough of a viral cloud to come to your mouth and it's protected and your eyes aren't, you're going to get it anyway, because you have to protect the mucosa of the eyes as well. So the masks are really not for me to be protected again. It's for me to respect my neighbor, to keep my neighbor from potentially being infected by me, something I don't know I may have.
Well, how are you guys keeping yourselves from, and your staff from breaking out in rashes, or when they're wearing the mask? How are you keeping, that was another question that came in. I'm assuming, there's some concerns there, but how are you keeping yourselves and your staff from breaking out wearing these masks? How are you keeping your faces clear from breaking out?
Dr. Laurie, you look like you got that one down.
I mean, I got a few bumps. We take them off in between.
Right.
My staff is I'll pretty much wear the heavier mask all day in the office. And then when I'm in the hospital, I wear the heavy mask. I have like a mask collection of different types that I wear depending on where I am. And so, you may get a little bit of a breakout. You may get a little bit of oil buildup just from having it on all day. But, at the end of the day, that's what we're doing. This is what we have to do to protect the staff. So we have to do.
I can just say you can use things, for acne, benzoyl peroxide preparations,
alcohol.
I mean, it's where we are now.
That's what we're doing.
How soon should we get a flu shot? Do you think we're going to be running out the vaccine?
The COVID vaccine?
How soon should we get the flu shot? And do you think there'll be a shortage of the flu vaccine due to COVID-19?
I don't think so. So a lot of people don't get the flu shot. The flu shot every year. I don't think we're going to run out. I think you would get it at the same time you typically would, like October-ish, to get the flu shot. I don't think we're going to run out. Dr. Robinson, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. But I think they've anticipated, they've ramped up so that there won't be a horrible confluence of COVID and influenza. We actually are giving out flu shots now in our office. We just got our doses. So we're sending them out, throwing them like darts, And I know they're in all the pharmacies. So I mean, really, the earlier the better from our standpoint, just because it takes 2 weeks to develop antibodies. So just because you get the flu shot doesn't mean you're immune tomorrow. So the earlier you can get it, the better. And seniors need a different kind of flu shot, of course, and the pharmacies would make you abreast of that. Something that's a little more potent, because the idea is your immune system's a little weaker. You need something to boost it a little, give it a little bit more of a boost. So the pharmacies would know that. All of the doctor's offices would know that administer the vaccine as well.
So not just for seniors, but people who have compromised immune systems should get a stronger vaccine as well?
That's right. That's right. And your physician would know which one you should get.
And then we should seek the advice from our physician.
That's right.
Making sure we get, okay. Another question that came in was, are rapid tests 100% accurate?
As best we know, yes. I mean, is anything 100% all the time? Probably not. But as best we know, I would say yes.
Right. And it looks like, in terms of something called, sensitivity, or specificity. So if you're ruling something in, it looks like, so if it's a positive test, these positive tests seem to be highly accurate. But if it's negative, that seems to be less accurate.
Less accurate.
So you could be negative, test negative, but you actually are positive. in some cases. It's a smaller amount, but the negative tests aren't as accurate as a positive test is, if that makes sense.
And can I just speak to something really, really quick? I don't know when this happened, but it seemed like there's this like shame associated with COVID now. Like I've heard people say, "Oh, I'm sick. I was in there for 5 days, but it's not COVID. It's not COVID." It probably is, and it probably is COVID. And if it's COVID, it's okay. Just deal with it. But I don't know. It kind of got like this. People feel like they need to tell you as if they went out and got COVID, I don't know, doing something that was illegal or something like that. And are trying to like, oh, I had fever and I'm sick and I was in bed, but it wasn't COVID. It was
Right.
it's 2020. It was probably COVID. It's summertime. So, there's no shame in having gotten the virus or being exposed to it. You just have to treat it and isolate yourself so you don't give it to everybody else.
And the other thing that's important too is that I think the flip side to that is every time you have a cough, you got COVID. You got COVID. That.
Right.
Thank you for saying that. You're right. Like it's a shame or something.
Yeah.
Honey, you have something you got any questions that have come into you, babe?
So I have a question that says, how has COVID-19 affected you personally, mentally and emotionally?
Us as physicians,
Yes.
Yes.
I'm tired. I am really tired. We never were able to close. There was really no quarantine for me. My line of work, there was no way to really do virtual visits. So we worked straight through the entire season. And finally, I just was like, I need to take a week off because I'm just tired and wearing a mask all day and being in the hospital and doing deliveries and wearing extra masks, extra protection. So it's drained all of us. I feel like in healthcare as well. I know I'm tired. And I just really want to be on the other side of it, but I see we're not there yet. And you have to really take time, even as a healthcare professional, to step back and decompress and just be in the house sometimes and turn the phone off and watch a movie and do nothing, because it's a lot and you can find yourself getting depressed or anxious or any of those things just from having to deal with it all the time.
Absolutely. No, you're right. I mean, you want it behind, you want it over, but we've got to go through this, and we've been through others. We'll get through this. But yeah, we were all tired of it. We wanted to go away soon, quick, fast, and in a hurry. But hey, we have faith in the Lord, know that all things work together to good those who love the Lord. And so we trust in him and just know that regardless of what it looks like, we keep pushing forward. He's going to give us the strength and give us the wisdom, the insight. And one day we're going to look up and it's done.
Yes. Amen.
One more question I want to ask, and then I'm going to pray, unless there are other questions that are going to come in live. So we're in this season now, and I do believe that it's not going to always be like this. Things are going to turn for us. And one of the questions that came in was, will you go back to treating patients the way you did before COVID-19? If not, what major changes will you make in your practice?
Great point. Great. Go ahead, Dr. Laurie.
I will. I will treat them like I've always treated them. I mean, we still laugh and talk now. I just do with a mask on all day. So,
Right.
we'll let people come back in eventually. So those kind of things we'll definitely go back to doing. But right now we just have to worry about protecting everyone involved, myself, my staff, and the other patients.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I think that's the point. Whether we think we're susceptible or not is not the point. We want to make sure that little old lady, that 80-year-old lady, that 90-year-old lady that comes in, as much as I want to hug her and kiss her little face, I can't do that.
Yeah.
And so things will be a little different until we're pretty sure that we've been past this, or by some way, shape, or form, either vaccine or by prior exposure, we know that they've been exposed already and that kind of thing. So things will be different, but not that much different.
Yeah.
We're still gonna love on our patients.
Yeah.
I have one more question I wanted to ask that was given to us. Is there really a vaccine on the horizon? If so, realistically, how soon do you think it will be available? And personally, I want to add to that. I've heard several people saying they don't want no part of it. What are your thoughts about that?
Go ahead, Dr. Laurie.
um, I'll answer the first part. I think from the things I've read, probably safely like a year or so before they really get a vaccine that would be widely available to everyone, before they have done all the trials and stuff. Probably not well until next year, before one would hit the market. I don't think we'll see one in 2020 at all. As far as the getting one and the not getting one, there are so many theories and just all types of things out there about why you shouldn't get it and what's being implanted in it and the chips and all that kind of stuff. I can't speak to all that. I can't. I don't know. I get all the emails too. I get all the emails. I get all the did you see this? Did you see this? All I know is in this moment right now, I'm going to continue to maintain my health, stay healthy, take my supplements, drink my water, and we'll see what happens. If whenever that vaccine happens, we'll just see what happens then.
Good answer. Good answer. Because I mean, she's right. I mean, and so the problem is, as we in the healthcare profession, we're looking at this and we know the length of time it takes for quality assessment of any drug and any treatment, and they're accelerating it. And you have even right now the director at the CDC saying that if they sanction this vaccine for this year, for this release this year, that they're resigning because they already know they can't get behind it. I mean, personally, I can't get behind anything that's released that early. I was a pharmacist before I became a physician. And I just know that there's quality assessments that must be made and that things happen. And that's why we follow drugs 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the road. I'm not saying we need to wait 15 years for it, but a few months for a vaccine that we're wanting to peddle around the world. I don't know. That's very suspicious for many of us. And I don't like to, if it's not something I would give to myself or my family, then I certainly can't get behind giving it to my patients. And I'm with Dr. Laurie. I take my supplements, I take my vitamin D. I do supplements that are superfoods, some of the green powders that have antiviral properties. And most of us, we take these things because we know what they do and we can't afford to be sick. And that's why we don't, quote unquote, get sick. I mean, doesn't mean that sometimes things don't hit us, but we know what to do. And we just try to pass that information on to you guys so you can be in the same boat. So that's how we'll answer that.
Good answer.
Excellent. I'm good, Bishop.
Okay, no more, darling. Somebody did ask the question, where do you think this virus came from?
You got another 30 minutes.
Oh,
Lord.
Well, that was one. Where do you think this virus came from? And that's one of the questions that a lot of people are asking. Yeah. And I will say this. I think it's in John chapter number 9, where the Bible speaks of a young man being born blind. And the disciples had begun to ask Jesus, well, who sinned? Who did all this that this boy is born blind? Jesus says nobody did, but it was done so that the glory of God might be on display.
How about that?
Don't know where the virus came from. Don't know how long it's going to be here. But I do know that it is on the scene that the glory of God might be on display
Amen.
in all of our lives.
Amen.
Now, that's a good answer to give that one on tonight.
Amen.
Lord,
Yes,
yes,
Because
Lord.
we can get caught up in the whys and all of this and that. And then my grandmama just told me something in my spirit. She said, baby, you're going to understand it better
Bye bye.
by and by.
Amen.
And so there are going to be various responses to that one. But I do know I'm grateful to God for the both of you, loving us as your patients as you do, taking good care of us, going in even when you are drained yourself. And I believe that there's something that's being revealed that you never knew about yourself in this process that's being manifested now. And so I want to thank you both so much. And Dr. Robinson is so right. Now, I've not been to no OBGYN, so Dr. Laura, I can't speak. But Dr. Robinson is right. He has a personal connection with us as his patients. He's concerned about how are you doing? We can talk about this other stuff, but how are you doing? And from what I gather from the girls and my wife, it's the same at Dr. Laura's office. So I want to say to the both of you, and I know that a lot of people are praying for a lot of different people in a lot of different areas, but thank you both so much for sacrificing and going in, and here it is, taking that second wind to make sure that we all are well.
Amen.
Thank you so much. We're praying for the both of you. And I need both of you to send me your cash up because I got to find a way to get you at least a dessert.
Mhm.
At least a dessert. At least. Now, whether you get it or not, send it to somebody else with it, at least. So thank you all so much for those persons who have connected with us tonight. I want you all to go back and please share this, start another watch party some other time throughout the course of the night and tomorrow, so that we can get this information out.
Yes.
Very good information. And thank you both of you for being so transparent and open with us on tonight. I'm praying for your practices.
Thank you.
I'm praying for the both of you physically, emotionally, mentally. I'm praying for you and your families.
Thank you. Thank you.
And listen to this. And if either one of you ever need the bishop or the first lady to stand in proxy in prayer for you while you're in your practice, all you have to do is just text, pray, and we're on it.
Amen.
We're on it. We're on it. Thank you so much for those of you who have joined in with us tonight. Thank you for sharing with us. It has been our most absolute pleasure to have had this experience and encounter on tonight. God bless you, people of God, until we meet again. Join us again next week. We're going to have some more exciting conversations with people in this season. And so you don't want to miss any of this. I believe the Lord has sent me into a series in September on being repositioned in this season to prosper. Repositioned in this season to prosper. So join us. Thank you all so much for connecting with us tonight. Dr. Laurie, thank you much. Dr. Robinson, thank you much. I appreciate the both of you, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
Love you guys.
Yes,
you
love
guys.
you.
All right, take care. All right.
Bye-bye.
The meeting.